We are pleased to welcome you, the listeners, to episode 3 of Gigi's Past Meets Present Conversations, where we pair up current Gigi's student athletes with Gigi's alumni to discuss experiences, aspirations, and the significance of Black History Month. Today we are fortunate to be joined by Gigi's Women's Basketball Hall of Fame member, Hannah Sunley-Paisley. Hannah's list of basketball accomplishments is lengthy and includes 3 OUA Player of the Year honors during her time at U Ottawa, culminating in being named the 2012 U Sports National Player of the Year. Since graduating from the Faculty of Arts with a bachelor's degree in history and religion, Hannah played professionally in Europe and has gone on to publish 2 fantasy novels, with a 3rd book in the works. She is joined today by current Gigi's student athletes and members of the Gigi's men's basketball team, Kevin Civil and Josh Inkumsah. Take it away, Josh.
I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Josh Inkumsah.
Hi, Josh.
I'm from Barrie, Ontario. I'm 21 years old. I play for the men's team here at U Ottawa, and it's my first year, so.
Yeah, and I'm Kevin, 3rd year. My 3rd year, I used to play in Montmorency, CJEP, so I'm a CJEP guy. And yeah.
Hannah, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from?
I grew up in Toronto. I got recruited to play basketball at Ottawa U in May of my grade 12 year. I actually planned on taking a 5th year, and Coach Carlos Brown saw me play at Provincials. And he looked into the stands and saw my grandmother. And I guess we were the only Black people there, because he walked right over to her and he goes, "That's your granddaughter? Or are you family with her?" And she's like, "Yep." And the rest is kind of history. They talked. A week later, I met up with Coach Brown, and I came to Ottawa U. So I never applied to any other schools. And although my first year was challenging, after that, I learned so much, and I love Ottawa, even though most people from Toronto do not. I think partially that's because I was a huge nerd in high school. I still am a nerd. And if you talk to any of the guys who played at the same time as me, they will tell you that I'm a nerd trapped in the body of an athlete. So I really didn't experience Toronto even when I was 17 or 18 in any adult capacity. I became an adult in Ottawa and kind of got agency and independence here in Ottawa. So I think though Ottawa is a city that acts like a town, I really love it. I'm thankful to be kind of a big fish in the small pond of Ottawa basketball, because I've been able to work with so many great people. And it's so fun to see these kids go off to university. So I played 5 years of basketball at Ottawa U, played 1 year professionally in Germany, and thought that I should get a real job. So I came back, went to school at Algonquin. A few years go by and I realized that was a stupid decision. So I started training again, and then played 3 more years pro in France. While I was in France, I published my first novel, and I've published 1 more since. And I also have a YouTube channel, which hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be hitting 30,000 subscribers. I'm at 28 now, so.
Did you learn a little bit of French?
Oh my gosh. I feel so much shame, because I was there for 3 seasons, so 8 months, right?
Yeah.
And when I left, I could have a full conversation. I don't think I could make a lifelong friend in French.
Yeah.
But I could definitely find my way home and have a conversation with the cab driver on the way,
Yeah.
But no, it's gone. It's gone. I'm so sad.
Wow.
I know, it's so disappointing, but apparently my accent was phenomenal. I would trick the French people. They would think I was French until I made so many mistakes that they're like, "There's no way this girl could be French."
So, Hannah, what were some of your proudest moments as a student athlete at U Ottawa?
I think, the first time I was an All-Canadian, that was great. My first year, we did not have a very successful season. We were 3-19, and it was pretty tough. And then Andy came in, and we got a couple new point guards, and we went from 2nd last in the country to 7th, and we went to nationals, and we got smoked. We got smoked at nationals. But in my 2nd year, I held my own against the best posts in the country, and that was really, really great. Even though we lost by so much, I still left that game feeling proud because I did everything I could in that moment. So I really remember that. I actually, this is so shameful. I have like a little shelf of my glory days as an athlete. And one of the things I have here, I got the cover of the Fulcrum plaque in my 3rd year. When we beat Carleton, you can see them crying in the background. That's my favorite part because I'm an evil human who's going to go straight to hell. But that was a pretty incredible game. We definitely peaked at the right time. We didn't have a great season, but we really came together as a team to beat Carleton to go to nationals, which was huge. But I would say my proudest moment was at nationals in my 5th year. I was player of the year in the country that year. And I was sitting in the stands. I'm not sure why I was alone. I don't really remember. I was watching another team warm up or something. And somebody came over to me, no idea who he was. I said, "Are you Hannah Sunley-Paisley?" I said, "Yep." He said, "Thank you for playing your basketball in Canada." And it was just like still thinking about that. You're welcome. And it was just so impactful for me because like think of where youth sport would be if every player who was on the bubble stayed in Canada.
Yeah, I agree.
Instead of going to the States to ride the bench for 3 years and then come back with their tail between their legs to play the rest of their eligibility.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, or maybe they have 4 years of riding the bench and like a ring in a D2 school that nobody's ever heard of. Like, wow, great job, you know? And I mean, not taking anything away from people. If that's what's important to you, okay, awesome. But I always try and brainwash any of the kids that I coach because at the end of the day, like the bond that I felt with my teammates was so unique. And I don't think you get that in the same way in the States. And I really think that I had more of an impact, like obviously not on like the world, but definitely more than I would have if I played in the States, you know? And I just think that moment, thank you for playing your basketball in Canada, you know, so simple, but I was so proud.
No, I bet.
I was so proud in that moment.
That's awesome. So how did your years as a student athlete prepare you for life off the court?
Oh, I don't know that it did altogether. I feel like it was a good bridge between living with my parents to living alone, like really alone. But I think that there are definitely things I think about, like, man, I wish I had known that when I was in university.
Right.
It's just kind of impossible. Like I could say it to you or to the girls who are playing now, and you guys won't understand or appreciate it until you're 10 years out and looking back going like, man, I wish I knew that. So I think like at the time I really felt like everything was the most important thing in the world. Like basketball was the most important thing in the world. You know, like we lost at Capitol Hoops and I did not want to show my face on campus. I felt such shame, you know? And I think that after leaving, having that experience and acknowledging like how intense and emotional that can be, once you leave, kind of gives you perspective and empathy for other people who believe that about things you don't care about.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I think it really, the thing that I come away from it now, especially now, like with my YouTube channel, actually, which I was saying to Liam before, I really feel like I deserve a psychology degree for the comment section of my YouTube videos. But I feel like I have so much more empathy, or at least I try to have more empathy because I can understand how something can feel so all-consuming, and to you it is, and to me it really, really was. But in the grand scheme of my life, like the only constant is change. And so I don't know if being a student athlete at that time really prepared me for life, but having that experience did. But I also think that, I mean, I'm a writer now and all my classes were history and English and that kind of stuff. So, sorry?
Not in French though.
Not in French, not in French. You know, I did take some French classes in my first year.
Yeah.
And I really believe that if I had had the right teacher, I would be fluent right now. But I did not have the right teacher. And I think I also at the time perhaps did not have the right motivation.
So would you be able to tell us a bit more about your YouTube channel and how far it's become and what you plan on doing with it in the next couple of years?
Sure. So it's called Hannah's Overinvested. And I actually first started it to promote my novel. This is my first book. I shoot my videos here, which is why it looks clean, you know, and the lighting's decent. And I always like flash my books in my videos because actually the main purpose of making my video was to sell my book. I really tried to grow my platform on Instagram and it just wasn't happening. And as an independently published author, marketing is the hardest part. And when you only have one book, you don't want to put a lot of money into marketing because you don't have a customer coming back multiple times. They buy one thing and then they're gone, and it takes years to write another book. So I wrote this book. I started my channel basically reacting to, and then discussing the character development of this TV show called Supernatural. Have you heard of this show?
Never.
It's probably because you guys are cool kids. That's why you haven't heard of it, because I'm a loser. I love that show. But it ran for 15 seasons, so I can't be the only loser watching it. There's a lot of us out there. But I started reacting to and reviewing that show, and it wasn't getting a ton of traction. So I started to do more recent things. And I did a series on a really, really dorky TV show called Crisis on Infinite Earths. There was a few episodes in some dorky TV shows. And I got my first 1,000 views. And then I did The Witcher, and I got my first 5,000 views. And then somebody commented, why don't you watch a Witcher game trailer? And I said, what's a game trailer? Because I'm not a gamer. Like I didn't understand the question. But this person sent me a link. So I watched it and I reacted to it. I posted it. Coincidentally, it was the same week that The Witcher 3 was having either its 5 or 10 year anniversary. So I got to 1,000 subscribers. I got to 2,000 subscribers. I got to 2,500 subscribers, and I monetized my channel.
Yeah.
And since then, game related content is huge for me. It's the thing that brings in the most. And I am not a gamer. I'm still not a gamer, although my subscribers ask me relentlessly to start gaming. And I say I'm waiting for Henry Cavill to have time to teach me. Do you know who Henry Cavill is?
I don't.
He's the guy who plays Superman.
Oh, okay.
In the Justice League. Yeah. He also plays Geralt in the Witcher TV show on Netflix, and he's a total nerd. Like he apparently played the Witcher game, heard they were making a TV show, and like begged the studio for the role.
Jeez,
so in my mind, I said, yeah, I'll just wait for him to have time to teach me. So either I meet Henry Cavill, cool, or I never start gaming, also fine. But for the most part right now, my channel it's really fun. And the instant gratification of being able to talk to people about something they're excited about that I'm learning about and becoming excited about is great. But the real purpose is to market my novels, which now I have 2. I'm working on my 3rd novel now. Nice. If I work like really, really hard, it'll come out in November, but I'm not super married to that date because I don't know how certain that will be. But yeah, that's basically it. It's really cool to be able to make money. And my parents told me I'd never make money watching TV, you know? So it's cool. I mean, if my channel keeps growing, what I do now to keep the lights on is I'm a personal trainer and a CrossFit coach. And it would be really cool to be able to minimize my hours doing that and just like keep the clients that I really love or the classes that I feel like are mine, as opposed to just like clocking in sometimes. Although with fitness, it's different because it's so engaging, like you're so engaging all the time. But yeah, if I could lessen that to focus more on my writing, that would be great. Like if YouTube paid for me to sit at home and write books.
I mean,
yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about your book, and I just want to know, what are your creative aspirations and your goals, other goals at the moment?
Like world domination, other than that? Saving the world, I think. Saving the world one gamer at a time is what I'm doing now. I think that I guess one of my aspirations in life is to destigmatize a lot of things that society says is not okay. And one thing that I talk relentlessly, like endlessly about, if you ever watch any of my videos, I'm probably going to say at some point that some character should be in therapy, because they should. And I really feel like we all should, but society so stigmatizes invisible injuries and admitting that we can't do things alone and that we need help. Whereas in actuality, saying that you need help is one of the bravest things you can do. And going to therapy is very, very brave. And I think if we were able to do that freely without judgment, talk about it openly, we would be able to not only like communicate our issues or our problems or whatever, but deal with them so they're not issues anymore. You know, and it would allow, I just think that open communication is so important, and a lot of that starts with ourselves, and we don't often have the space to do that. So in my novels and on my channel, I really try and kind of broaden the scope of what normal is. For example, one thing that drives me crazy, I don't even know if this is a real thing, I read it once. Have you ever heard the phrase the invisible white?
No.
So essentially my understanding of what this is like, I'll give you an example. You see in the newspaper, man robs bank. Does that seem like a normal headline, perhaps, of something, right? Black man robs bank. What was the ethnicity of the man who robs the bank? Well, he was white, but that's invisible because that's normal and it's expected. So in my novels, I describe every single character's skin color, like as if white people all have the same skin color. Of course not. Of course not. But because authors see it as the norm and they don't feel the need to describe it, it gets more embedded in our culture that is the status quo. So every single one of my characters has their skin tone described at some point in the book, right? And I talk about that on my channel in my writing videos. I try and promote that as much as I can. My characters, like another thing that I think is getting a little bit more destigmatized, especially in writing, is male friendship and like male platonic love, and men not being embarrassed about showing emotion, you know, like as if men need to be this blank slate all the time because that's what masculinity is. So basically with my books and when I talk about characters in my channel, for the most part, I look at the world, I judge it shamelessly for the things I think should be better, and I fix it in the little world that I've created with my novels. And I hope that people will be able to read that and experience some things differently.
Yeah, good. So we're now in the month of February. It's Black History Month.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? What does the month of Black History mean to you?
Well, I read I Never Had It Made by Jackie Robinson, the autobiography, every February. It's more of a reminder. I first read it maybe 7 years ago after I saw the trailer for 42. I knew there was an autobiography, so I actually listened to a lot of audiobooks. I don't read so much off paper, but yeah, I listen to that every year, which is a very interesting and sad, I guess, reminder of how much and how little has changed. But for the most part, I think the month of February just makes me a little more conscious, a little more conscious of how messed up our education system is. Like, I feel like this Morgan Freeman quote gets pulled up so much by MAGA hat wearing incels or something, but there's some Morgan Freeman quote where he talks about not wanting Black History Month to exist anymore. And there's this little snippet that gets pulled, and I would like to know the context. And I believe that the context of that, which he does say, is Black history is history. The idea that it's not something we should be learning all year around is wrong. And I totally understand that right now we're in a point in time where we need to say, like, okay, this is the time we're learning about this thing. But every year it's a reminder to me that we're working towards a society that doesn't need this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I see, especially this year. I think, especially this year with all of the movements that have been happening, all of us being like locked inside and really being able to see, like, for example, like the Wet'suwet'en protests and the indigenous lobster fishers who were having their boats burned, you know, and like the way the news reports some of these things. The guy who drove into the Governor General's fence wherever to try and talk to Trudeau and who was talked to for an hour and a half instead of shot. Like, do I want that guy to be shot? No, of course not. But it would be really great if somebody who wasn't white also got that same treatment. You know, it would be really great if the news called what was happening to those lobster fishers terrorism, because that's what was happening. You know, like their boat didn't spontaneously catch fire. It was caught on fire. And just because the person's white doesn't mean it wasn't terrorism. You know, and we see similar things happening when people are talking about the Capitol building and what was happening on January 6th, right? Like nobody's calling that terrorism.
Yeah, that's insane.
Nobody's calling that domestic terrorism. So I think that, yeah, basically for me, February is just like a more of a reminder of the world we are working towards, where we don't need this anymore, where this is all year and everybody's culture is being celebrated all year in its own way.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just feel like fired up to, like, I'm so ready for March 1st. Like that's when I'm breaking out my like talking about Black people stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Everybody else did it March 1st. Let's go.
I like that. No, I agree. I agree with your statement. Anything you want to add?
No, good.
I think that about wraps it up today.
Yeah.
Just want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very
You're
much.
most welcome.
Yeah.
You too.
For the people who
Hopefully
are
I'll be able to watch you guys play in the near future.
Someday.
yeah, geez, next year. For the people who are watching, where can they find your stuff? Where can they find your channel and all that good stuff?
Well, my channel is called Hannah's Overinvested. I never use Twitter, but I'm on there at HS Paisley. That's the same as my publishing name, HS Paisley. My books are in chapters and on Amazon, on Audible, and iTunes. All the places you'd think.
All platforms.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.